Alright, so I've tried filming this video on 3 separate occasions already, so you guys are gonna have to bear with me. If the mojito is the greatest cocktail ever invented, which I think it is, it's because it hits 3 important things. 1, everybody loves it. 2, everybody knows about it and knows how to make it. And 3, it's easy to get right. So to me, the argument's over for greatest cocktail ever. But if the mojito is the greatest cocktail, then the Ramos Gin Fizz is probably the best cocktail. What's the distinction, you ask? Well, if you've ever had a Ramos Gin Fizz, then you know nothing tastes like it, and it is freaking delicious. It is so good. You don't know what you're missing if you've never had one. But the reason it falls to the mojito as greatest ever is because it's a pain in the butt to make, a lot of people don't know how to make it, and it's hard to get a good one. And actually, bartenders hate making it because it's so difficult. But to be perfectly frank, it doesn't have to be like that. Now, a Ramos isn't easy, but there are some tips and techniques that if you follow them, you can get a great one every single time, and you don't need special tools or ingredients. I mean, well, you need orange blossom water, but is that really a special ingredient at this point? I'm gonna walk you through these step by step as we make a Ramos Gin Fizz. But there are 3 important things that you have to nail to get a perfect Ramos every time: temperature, technique, and timing. So let's mix it up. So let's start with temperature. If you can get and keep everything cold enough, it doesn't matter if you have a fancy high-end shaker tin. You can easily use a cheap sub-$20 cobbler shaker like this one I got from Target without a problem. If you have time in advance, chill down the shaker by popping it in the freezer. If you don't have time, this is what you can do. Add a good amount of ice to your shaker and shake it until your hands hurt from the cold. Then transfer the ice to a mixing glass or the larger tin if you are using a 2-tin shaker setup. Make sure to remove all the ice and water from the tin you will build the cocktail in, and then set it on top of the ice. Now, all your other ingredients should be chilled in the fridge, and it doesn't hurt if your gin is in the freezer well in advance. Keeping things cold will prevent the shaker from leaking when we dry shake this cocktail. More on that later. So now, to build. Add 1 ounce of simple syrup, half an ounce fresh lemon juice, half an ounce fresh lime juice, which I combined together. And then you have a choice of foaming agents, egg white or aquafaba. Today, I'm using 3/4 of an ounce of aquafaba. Two ounces of our frozen gin, and here's where we start talking timing and technique. I'll measure out 1 ounce of heavy or double cream, which I will reserve until I have finished the dry shake. So, capping the tin, shake without ice for 20 seconds or so. This shake without ice is called a dry shake, and the whole idea is to whip the proteins in the egg white, or aquafaba, into a foam. The presence of water from ice and the fat from cream will make this almost impossible to achieve. Hence the reputation that the Ramos will make your arms fall off from shaking in order to get a good head of foam on the cocktail. By shaking without fat and added water, you can achieve a nice foam in about 10 to 20 seconds. Having everything as cold as possible creates negative pressure inside the tin, helping it seal instead of leaking everywhere. Once you've completed the dry shake, add the cream and a single large piece of ice and shake again for about 20 seconds. The large ice cube will help froth the cream we just added and incorporate it into the rest of the cocktail. If we didn't use any ice, the foam we just created wouldn't incorporate with the cream due to its light consistency. We don't need to worry about adding dilution here either. The soda water at the end will do that. We just want to mix and chill everything, and for that, a large rock of ice is perfect. That done, add 2 to 3 ounces of cold soda water to a frozen Collins glass, followed by about 4 drops of a quality orange blossom water. This could realistically be added at any point in the recipe, I simply forgot it earlier. Then, fine strain your cocktail into the glass and give it a little tap and shake to help the foam settle, and then put it into the freezer for 10 minutes. The trade-off here is that while yes, you will have to wait, you are also almost guaranteed to have a picture-perfect meringue every single time. And with this cocktail, yeah, it's worth it. After the 10 minutes are up, remove your fizz from the freezer and measure out 2 ounces of soda water, preferably into a glass measure as metal will make the soda foam like crazy. Then poke a hole into the center of the meringue with a straw and add your soda water. If the foam won't rise, remove the straw and add the soda rapidly into the hole in the meringue. And yes, it's supposed to do that. Add a straw. Well, maybe a longer one. And that's it, boys and girls. That's how you make the best cocktail ever invented. Now for the fun part. All right, it is the best part of the video. I get to taste this freaking gorgeous cocktail. You can see right here, I don't know how clear it is in post-production, but there's a thicker body to the cocktail here, and then a thin layer of the seltzer water, and then you have all the meringue on top going from about here all the way up to here. You can kind of mix that in a little bit. You will kind of break up the meringue if you're too violent. There, now it's all kind of homogeneous, and the meringue held up just fine. So time to give it a taste and tell you guys about it. So cheers. It's like an orange lemon lime creamsicle. It's decadent but light. The creaminess from the cream is, oh, it's so good. And when you make it with aquafaba like this, it's not quite as dense of foam. It's not quite as heavy a texture as egg white, but it's pretty close. And personally, I prefer using the aquafaba simply because I usually have it in the fridge ready to go, and otherwise I would probably throw it away. And a little bit of salt in there just helps to bring out the flavors. Back to the cocktail at hand, you taste the gin, so you get all of those botanicals, but the lemon, lime, and orange kind of combine into like an orange creamsicle, and it is so smooth on the palate. You got the bubbles in there, so it's really interesting because it is effervescent, but then it's also just creamy, decadent, rich, but not heavy, right? It's such a contradiction in flavors and textures, right? You've got these bright, bubbly effervescence with heavy cream, or double cream if you're in the UK. And with that heavy cream, you have plenty of sugar. So you would think it's rich and heavy, but you have all the botanicals from the gin and the orange blossom water, the lemon, the lime, brightening it up. And so this thing it hits every flavor that you want in a gin cocktail. There's a reason why this thing has such a great reputation. I'm going for another sip. Let's taste some of this meringue. It's really good. It's not quite as thick a meringue as you would get with an egg white, like I said, but it's still very stiff. It holds up the straw. It's still really nice. And if you're worried about using unpasteurized eggs, there's a fix for you. You don't need any special ingredient. Just go to the grocery store, buy a can of garbanzo beans, take the juice out, and use it. It's so easy. Truth be told, I actually prefer making a Ramos Gin Fizz with bourbon. If you've never had that, it's a whole nother level. It's so good. This is an incredible template for whatever kind of liquor you want to use. You could use rum or tequila. It's basically just a sour with cream and some sort of foaming agent. I mean, that's the ingredients. If you didn't want to bother trying to find orange blossom water, you could just use a really heavily botanical gin. Like you could use a rose gin or something like that. The sky is the limit with this cocktail. And if you follow my 3 tips, start with everything cold. Dry shake without the cream, and then shake with ice and cream. And finally, giving it some time at the end. Trust me, a full 10 minutes in the freezer is not that long when you end up with one of the best cocktails ever, every single time. There are a few things more disappointing in the cocktail world than putting all that effort into a Ramos and then having the meringue fall flat on you. It's so heartbreaking. I mean, it's still gonna be delicious, but it's just like, So if you let it wait in the freezer, it's going to come out perfect every time. If you get anything out of this video other than the fact that you should try a Ramos, you should try making it yourself. It's not that hard. You don't have to shake it forever. You don't need a special ingredient. What else can I say about this drink? Go make yourself one and tell me how it was in the comments. My name is Luke. This is the homemade edition. Y'all know what to do with the buttons, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.